High deductible medical plans just don't work anymore. Look, I've been in the benefits industry for almost 20 years now in some form or fashion, and what's being used today for employers and employees just isn't working. So I'm going to show you some things of why I feel that's going on and maybe some ideas for you to replace them with. Look, my name's John Millen. I call myself a benefit hacker because I like to fix problems. I'm tired of what's going on. It makes me angry. I'm part of PPG Benefit Solutions. We're an independent benefits firm, but I'm not here to tell you about who we are. I'm here to talk about this problem, why this continues to be the go-to solution. And if you're an HR director, CFO, owner, or an employee watching this, I want you to listen as I quickly go through this because I think it's going to provide some value to you. You see, there's three things that are driving me to say this, three major problems, and you may already know what they are. One is the costs are going up. Medical costs continue to rise. Two, the coverage continues to get worse. So you're paying more money for worse coverage. And three, you may not know this, your employees are not using the plan. They're delaying the care, which is not good. What's this first problem? Costs. Healthcare costs are doubling every 6 years. Doubling. 12% average per year. I don't know if you knew this stat, and if you do, you should be very upset. You should be very mad that this is happening. And unfortunately, I don't see that because just the other week, I got an email from someone that said, hey, we got a good renewal. It's only going up 8%. When did anyone tell you that an 8% increase on top of 8% on top of 8% is good? Who's telling you that? Your broker? We'll talk about that in a second. But don't ever accept 8% as good. 12% is the norm. Now let's put it in context. What is the cost of college tuition going up? How much is college tuition inflation? Does anyone know? 6% a year. And people freak out about that. And yet healthcare costs are twice that amount. And people are like, oh, that's not bad. I was getting 20% because you're listening to the wrong people. What this is doing is putting enormous strain financially on two buckets of individuals, two entities. One is on the corporate profit side. Whether it's corporate or nonprofit, the revenue of the organization, whether you're a small plumbing company, whether you're a nonprofit, whether you're an auto dealer, whatever it is, you can't deny that is straining you. When your costs are doubling every 6 years, that means you're not giving raises anymore. Remember the days in the past when you worked for companies and you got a merit increase and it was maybe 3 to 5%. If you did a really good job, maybe it was 6, 7, 8%. And if you were a superstar performer, maybe it was 10%. Years ago, I remember that. Those days are not here. Why? Because you're spending all of your money on healthcare and you continue to think there's nothing you can do. There are things you can do. I'm telling you. Why do you think I'm so passionate about this? Why do you think I'm on LinkedIn 3 times a week? Why do you think I have 400 videos on YouTube? Why do you think I have 300 podcast episodes? To get the message out that you can do something about it. Very passionate because I'm tired of this. After 18 years of sitting in employee benefit meetings and seeing the song and dance tap show from the front of the room from the broker, enough is enough. And then looking at the faces of the employees when the broker says, you guys should feel really good. I have a $6,000 deductible where I work. No one cares about your $6,000 deductible, Bob the broker. I care about my employees that are living paycheck to paycheck. So this is straining corporate profits. You're not doing things that you should, like maybe hire a new employee with the $50,000 savings that can be generated. Maybe do some advertising, maybe upgrade your equipment, maybe refine your 401k, but stop shoveling money to the insurance carriers. And then the other side is the family cash flow. And I see this. We've done over 10,000 employee benefit one-to-one counseling sessions. I have real experience, and my team of employees, benefit counselors, we call them benefit counselors, benefit educators, benefit advisors, non-enrollers, because they educate employees. We hear the story. We see like, I'm not getting my care because I can't afford it. It's straining cash flow. So guess what? You're uptight that your employees aren't contributing to your 401k when I just don't get it. We match it. Don't they understand? They understand. They're quite savvy, but there ain't no money left at the end of the month. And so this is what it looks like from Kaiser. This is a nonprofit. Look it up. This is a 20-year trend. Pretty much going up and to the right, those orange and yellow lines. When are you going to say, as an employer, as a CFO, as an HR manager, enough? I'm tired of this. Because you can drop off right now. If you're like, I really don't care, there's nothing I can do, or I trust Bob, my broker, whatever he says, it's the gospel. Great. Go back to your work. Because I'm looking for the people that are tired of this. So what does the industry do? They increase the copay. Primary care, specialist, emergency room. Hey guys, we have a few changes this year for the benefits. Your copays used to be $10 for the doc, now it's $25. Specialist used to be $50, now it's $100. ER used to be $100, now it's deductible and 20%. Or you tweak the coinsurance levels. This is the one that's sneaky. This is being done for you by the insurance companies. Back in the day, you'd have your deductible and then maybe everything was paid for after that, right? There was no co-insurance because the insurance company paid the rest. Then they started having a 10% level where you pay 10%, the insurance pays 90% after the deductible until you hit your out-of-pocket max. Now we're seeing 20 and 30%. Now plans coming out today, ladies and gentlemen, have 50% co-insurance levels. When will it be that it's going to flop over and flip over where it's going to be, I'm paying 80 and they're paying 20? The time is coming because no one is addressing the problems. Or we increase the out-of-pocket max. It's the most liability an employee will have. Now those are approaching over $8,000 for an individual. Family at 16, we increase the deductible. This is the favorite choice. To throw everybody under an HSA account. Or we change the network called skinny networks or narrow networks. Whatever it is, it means if you go to the wrong hospital, the wrong provider, the wrong doctor, you ain't getting coverage at all. It is out of network. No coverage. Now, I'm not saying these things are bad. I'm just saying this is what's happening. You're going to get 1 to 2 point reduction on copays. You're going to get 2 to 3% on coinsurance levels. You're going to get 2 to 5% on max. When you change the deductible, you're going to save 10 to 20 to 30%. When you go to a skinny network, you're going to save 10 to 25%. And when you terminate the plan, you're going to save 100% because there's nothing left. And that's just not feasible. We keep just making things worse. So the number 2 problem, HDHP, high deductible health plan. So what we started doing, which made sense, right? We jack up the deductible. We strip out all the copays. We strip out all the prescription. We just put a high deductible plan in as an option. In 2003, they came out with an amazing concept called health savings accounts, HSA plans. And the idea was that the employees would be better consumers of their medical care because they'd have their money set aside pre-tax. It's their money, and they would treat it like it was money they were using for a vacation or buying something. Does anyone know what the average deductible was in 2003? Take a quick guess in your head. $500. So put yourself back in time 17 years ago, and the deductible was $500, and you came out with this HSA concept, and it was like, wow, this is brilliant. I'm going to take $10 a week pre-tax. So it's like I'm getting a 20% lift, right? Or 30%, depending on my tax bracket. I'm going to put $10 a week, and at the end of the year, I'll have $500. So if I ever need a deductible for copays or prescriptions, or, oh my gosh, I get a test or I go to the ER, I'm covered. Does anyone know what the average deductible is now, individual? $4,300. It's 8 times as high. And yet we're still using the same techniques and tools that we did 17 years ago. I don't know. I think it's some time for some new ideas. So what does the industry do with this? We show employees how to compare costs online. We've all been through this. I've seen this hundreds of times in 18 years, 17 years. All right, guys, now before you get your MRI, you're going to go to the insurance company website that's super easy to view on your phone, or you can just, back then it was, go to a computer, go to a laptop that you probably don't have at home, but you can do it at work. Well, we don't have it at work either. But so you go online, and it's really easy to find on the insurance website. You go to unitedhealthcare.com or kaiser.com or whatever it is. I'm sure it's just right there in the middle because it's designed like Amazon. So it's simple, right? It's a good idea, but it's so hard to find. And like, who's actually using that? Heard that for years. We start increasing communication about the value of HSA plans, their tax savings. Look, you're saving 10, 20%. And even if you don't use it, the money's accumulating. So when you retire, it's like a medical 401k. And yet, people aren't putting money in their normal 401k. Why is that? Because the costs are doubling every 6 years, and the out-of-pocket exposure is going up just as fast. What's happened, though, is this concept, in my opinion, is not working out the way it was intended. Times have changed. Contribution levels, from what I've seen, now you can read all kinds of reports online. A report will tell you what they want to tell you. Whatever it is they're trying to convey, they can show a report or a survey. But I'm just telling you from years of talking to employees, are you putting money in your HSA? No. Why not? I don't have any money left over. Or yes, a little bit, $10, $15, right? The rank and file are doing a little bit, $500 a year, something in that range. Executives, you're doing it, right? You're maxing it out. Well, you're making $300,000 a year. Of course you're maxing it out. You're paying your employees $40,000 a year. They don't have any money left over. 87% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Most families in the nation don't even have $1,000 saved up for emergencies. So what do? We need more education. Man, my employees just aren't getting it. So you pound it and you pound it and you pound it and you pound it until one day someone came up with the idea, wait a minute, we're just going to give them the money in their HSA account. It was never intended that way. But we got so frustrated that we saved. And I'm telling you, I've been in meetings where I've showed employers. I remember back, 8 years ago, a small company, I showed them a $50,000 savings with better coverage. And they were feeling guilty that they were saving the money. The company was saving the money. So they had to keep the rich plans and keep spending all the money. HSAs were not intended for you to fund. It's great if you do. I'm not saying HSA plans are bad. I'm just saying times have changed. It's not a solution for everything. And here's the main thing I want you to get out of this. I've heard this over time that, it's like buying a TV. Hey guys, when you go to buy a TV, you go to a couple shops, you go online, you price shop, you look at features, and then you make the best buying decision. That's what we want you to do with your medical care. Here's a news flash. It doesn't work that way. As much as you want it to work that way, it doesn't work that way. People do not do that. When their doctor says to them in the doctor's office, you need to have your knee scoped, or you need to run an MRI on that shoulder, and they say, go downstairs and get it done. They hand them the prescription. Your employees are not saying, whoa, doc, no, not going to follow your advice here. I'm going to go online and compare costs first. And then I'm going to do some shopping. I'm going to check quality metrics, make sure that center is legit. That's not going on. You can wish it's going on. You can read stories on LinkedIn of people that have flown across the country to save money by doing something special to get attention, but that's not what most people do. They do what the doctor says. They don't buck the system. Doctors have that authority. I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm not saying that I haven't tried and I've done it, or that we tell employees to do that. I'm not saying give up. I'm saying don't make that part of your strategy. Do you think people are going to be better consumers of their medical care? They're not. Medical care is about risk and emotion and logic and all kinds of things. So it's a very complicated decision. Third problem, employees are delaying care. Last year, almost 60% of employers had at least one high deductible plan because you had to control the cost. You had to get a plan down in cost so the employees could actually get it. But employees are not delaying, they're not getting their care. According to the study below, 44% didn't go to the doctor because of the out-of-pocket cost. That should be a staggering number for you. So I'm going to paint a picture. I'm talking to a company, they're spending about $250,000 a year in their total medical spend. And I say, just so you know, you're spending $250,000 and 40% of your employees are not using it because it's not designed right. It's not giving you the value that you think. Sometimes that means you spend $260,000 a year so that you get people using it. The whole point is not to not use it. The whole point is to keep people healthy and well as you go over time. So what are the consequences here? So hopefully it's not like this guy, right? Not quite what he was expecting, but there are some unintended consequences. Employees aren't going to the doctor. We'll take our kids. We're not taking ourselves. We don't get the recommended testing in labs due to the cost, right? Doc says do this, and you're like, oh boy, I gotta pay the deductible. Now, back in the day, there were co-pays for these. You need an X-ray, it's $20. You need blood work, it's $10. You need an MRI, CAT scan, CT scan, it's $50. Now, it's deductible first and then co-insurance. I thought about showing you like all the medical plans I've looked at in the last couple of years, but take a look at your plan. This is where it gets stopped. Like, no, I'm not doing that. What this causes is stress, anxiety, impacts performance, right? This is impacting people whether you know it or not. If someone is feeling ill and they don't know what it is, but yet they don't want to go to get it checked out to find out what it is because they're thinking, and I'm telling you, this is 10,000 interactions. Why should I go to the doctor for them to tell me I have to get surgery? I don't have the money anyways. That's what we hear. That is impacting those people on the job, at home, mentally. It is not good. Safety issues, if they're a truck driver, a forklift driver, and work on a manufacturing plant where they crunch numbers, we don't need more stress. We already have COVID stress. We don't need this kind of stress. And so small things can be big things. Let me give you an example. Bob is one of your employees. Bob wakes up with a pain in his left side for 3 days. Bob's wife finally says, go to the doctor. Bob hates doctors, but goes. He pays his $86.12 out-of-pocket cost as a negotiated rate with his high deductible plan. It's a $3,000 high deductible plan. And he sits with the doctor, and doctor pokes him and says, basically, Bob, I don't know what's going on. We need to run a couple tests. He writes up a script for some blood work and an MRI and says, hey, go downstairs, get it checked out, and then we got to figure out what's going on. Bob says, oh, any idea what that's going to cost? And guess what the doctor says? No idea, Bob. I don't handle that. I have no clue. But you have insurance, right? I'm sure it's good insurance. Yeah, you work for this big company. Yeah, you're good. Bob realizes that he has a $3,000 high deductible plan, and he walks out, walks past the testing thing, and goes home. And his wife says, what's going on? He says, well, they wanted me to get some tests, but I didn't have time, and we don't have the money, so we didn't do it. The doctor's office calls a few days later, says, Bob, where you been? Go, oh yeah, it's something come up. Bob doesn't say I can't afford it, but he doesn't get the test. A week later, he wakes up in severe pain. His wife drives him to the emergency room. They run a whole bunch of tests. They rush him over to the hospital where they check him in for 5 days with a significant kidney stone infection. 5 days in the hospital plus the ER is easily a $50,000 claim to your company's usage. Bob maxes out his out-of-pocket maximum of $81.50, and he's in worse shape. Why? Because he couldn't afford the testing up front to get through. Nothing gets better by waiting. You think that's an abstract story, but it's not. I just heard it last week doing open enrollment meetings for a company. I delayed a $2,800 MRI because I don't have the money. I have delayed prescription drugs because I can't afford them. I have this lump in my arm and I don't want to get it tested because I can't afford the money. Whew. So here's part of the issue. And you're not going to be told about this probably, and you're going to be like, John's a conspiracy theorist. I'm not. I'm just telling you what's happening so you have your eyes wide open. Healthcare is complicated. There's lots of people. There's lots of entities. It is a complex system, right? I'm not making light of that. There's lots of different moving parts. But sometimes there are inherent conflicts of interest that you might not even know exist, and you don't see them because you're not involved in it maybe as much as we are. And sometimes, not all the time, sometimes these parties benefit from the costs going up, but not for us, not for you, not for your employees, not for me, not for my company. But there are some times when these entities benefit. And what this really means is sometimes their profits, their corporate profits, go up when the costs go up. It's not worse. And in my opinion, this can create a disincentive to lower costs. Now, this is not meant to be controversial, but it's pure economics. And I would be glad to talk to you in depth about how this works. But there's many factors, whether it's bonus levels on national brokerage firms. When you get to 2 million, 5 million, 10 million in premium, you get extra bonus money. And if you start chopping down the medical premium 30 and 40%, guess what that does? Topside. Now, I'm not saying your broker does this, or maybe it's getting paid a percentage of the medical premium as compensation versus a flat per employee per month fee. A lot of companies are paying 3, 4, 5, 6% on the premium as a fee back to the broker. Well, if your rates are doubling every 6 years, guess what's going on with the commissions? Versus a flat $20 a month, $25 a month, $30 a month, $35 a month. Doesn't matter whether the costs go up or down. That's the way we operate. I want a flat rate. I don't want a percentage because I don't want any chance of being biased to helping clients. So there's a new way. Now I'm going to wrap up pretty quickly. I'm just going to take you behind the scenes really quickly and show you what do we do. There's some new things you can be doing, right? And, just because it's new doesn't mean it doesn't work. So let me go through this real quick. This is me. This is Laura. She started the company in 2001, 18 years ago. We now have over 140 clients. We specialize in small, mid-sized companies. We have clients not only all across Virginia, but in different states as well. We can operate across the nation. And our fit really is 5 to 150 employees. And the company has to have 3 things for us to move forward. 1, you've got to view your employee as an asset, not a liability. You've got to actually like your people. 2, you view your benefits as an investment into that asset, not an expense. Meaning you got to be willing to spend the right money to give them coverage and care. And 3, you got to be willing to make some hard decisions. That may mean firing Bob that's been your broker for 20 years. So not about me. This is not why I'm here. So I'm going to talk about what do we do to help. There's 4 strategies. I'm going to drill into this one in a second just to give you a flavor. But this is the first piece we do. We try to redesign. We try to save money. We try to eliminate the deductible. We use something called the zero deductible solution. We also focus on compliance. Lots of compliance issues when you have close to 50 employees. Lots of compliance issues when you get to the 20 employee mark that you're probably not. I don't know if you're familiar with Medicare and primary versus secondary. There's a big issue there that can come back and bite you. But we give all of our clients this platform. It's a benefit admin system. We pay for that. So it's on us. We educate employees one-to-one. I've talked about that. Look, you're spending $5 to $6 grand a year in benefits on each employee in some form. Now they're paying part of it. You're paying part of it. That's the spend. We have a duty to make sure we're wise. So we're going to ask that you spend an hour with them to get some benefit counseling so they understand that spend. And then we make it easy on the back end, right? No need to call the carriers, just call us. So let me talk about the old way. This is what's been happening for the last decade or more is that you have your cost by major medical covered in green. You have your orange, usually your deductible co-insurance up to your out-of-pocket max. And that's being funded by the employee's pocketbook, out of pocket, right? We've talked about this. All those shifts are going on. So what happens? It's coming out of their savings. It's being put on credit cards, savings accounts, HSA money, and so forth. It just isn't working. I think we've talked about this. We started out with employee-funded HSA accounts. Then that didn't work. So we added employer-funded. And then we have health reimbursement arrangements, which is essentially using company money to act as an insurance company. Not a bad idea in some cases, but not the fix across the board because who wants to be in the insurance industry? You're making plastic bottles or you're a nonprofit or you're a dentist office. Like you don't want to be insuring the risk for the employees. That's an HRA. And now we have high deductibles and skinny networks. So here's the new way. It may be a new concept for you, but it's actually been around for a couple decades. And the idea was borrowed from Medicare. and it's called secondary insurance. It's not sexy. It's not fancy. It's not complicated. It's not meant to be smoke and mirrors or shiny bullet, but it is such an amazing strategy. It's not the only strategy. So I'm not saying this is the answer. I'm saying this is an answer. It's essentially a supplemental product that fills the gaps from deductibles. Now, what's really unique about this, and since we've been really perfecting this for the past 8-9 years, these are not companies. We don't use insurance companies with animals and ducks on TV. You're not going to be in anyone's good hands. And you're not going to have to call Jake at night, right? That's not who we're talking about. These are specialty reinsurance carriers. You would not, when I tell you the names, people are like, I've never heard of them. So they're not on TV, but they have 20 million policyholders and they've been in business for 2 or 3 decades. And this is what they specialize in. So those are the types of companies we use. They insure most or all of the deductible. We use insurance to cover the risk, not your dollars. They can even pay up to 10 grand of expenses incurred by employees and or your dependent spouse and kids. That's a huge chunk of risk. And it works directly with the major medical. It's fit and designed to be pieced together so it's not overly insured, not underly insured. It's custom built. And because the risks are shared, the rates of these plans are very rate stable. Why is that important? Because your core medical plan is going up at 12% a year, right? Average, where this insurance that we layer has rates of 0 to 3% a year because it's a known risk. It's a really important part. You're going to see this in a second. This is what it looks like. Green on the right, orange on the left. Orange is a little bigger this time. Sometimes we shift the risk a little bit, but we fill it with the red box. We fill it with another company, and it has an assignable benefits ID card. Now, some of the carriers we work with do this. Some have a different way, but basically it's a 2-card system for several of the companies we provide. We recommend that the claims get paid by the insurance, not the employee. This is not the employee files a claim form, hopefully, and then the money gets sent to the employee. Then they keep the money and they don't pay the medical hospital. It's not one of those. The providers get paid directly. I'm overly simplifying this slide. It is much more complex, but you don't worry about that. That's what I do. That's what we do. So this is the strategy. This is how we get there. First of all, you got to understand the basic that medical costs related to usage, the claims that come in, right? Basically, the higher the claims, the higher the rates. Not always, but most of the time, this is kind of the underlying theme that you have to realize as you think about how do we bend the cost curve. So what we do is we, one, redirect the claims away from that major medical carrier. We redirect them. Now, what's important here is that you can use any medical carrier. Doesn't matter. It can be any medical carrier. It can be any funding mechanism, meaning it can be fully insured, self-insured, level funded. Any group medical plan this works with, right? So if you have your favorite, no problem. We then shift those claims into that secondary insurance carrier. We remove them and push them over into a more rate stable environment. And then when we do that, we layer in what's called first dollar benefit coverage to eliminate most or all of the deductible. And it's called the zero deductible solution. Now, I've been working on this for 8 years. Over hundreds of companies, thousands of employees, multiple industries. It works about 80% of the time. There are 20%, 10 to 20% of the cases that just it's not designed to work and fit for. We tell people, look, this is not going to work. But 8 out of 10 times it helps. What is this first dollar benefit coverage? It's basically anything that the employee would come out of pocket for, someone else is reimbursing. Things like hospital expense, outpatient. And outpatient's a big bucket, ER, urgent, ambulance, lab, even zero copay virtual care. But the employees love it. So even things like ambulance fees, durable medical equipment. So we layer in this coverage so that we assess, in essence, bringing in almost a platinum level plan, but it's even sometimes better than platinum because some of the platinum plans have a $250 deductible with coinsurance. Here's a case study. And I'm wrapping up. I'm almost done. But a lot of times people are like, can I talk to someone? Can you show me? Let me show you. And I have many of these. But here's one that's very easy to understand, and it's very consistent. All right, 44 employees. They got a 32% renewal. And their total medical spend, $729. No one's going to be able to handle that, right? So what happens is in the renewal packet, you look at it and the carrier gives you options, right? 3 to 5 to 6 to 7, 8 options. One of the options that was highlighted brought the increase down from 32% to, I believe it was 16%, if my memory is right. So it's only a 16% renewal, but the coverage they recommend was a skinnier network and much higher deductibles and out-of-pocket exposure for the employee. That is the traditional route. And your broker says, this is what you got. And then you make them go to all the carriers and you find out, oh my God, they're all about the same. So for us, we got to stay where we are, and we're going to take a 16%, and everyone looks like a hero, and they go back and negotiate it down to 11. And oh my God, we really won. We got 11% renewal. But don't worry, you just go to these facilities. And if you travel out of state, it's not going to really be covered. There's all these moving parts that get shifted. That's the norm. If you like doing that, keep doing that. I don't like doing that. I was like, no, we're not doing that. So we did our analysis, and we saved them $140,000 the first year. It was a 29% reduction. That's 12 grand savings a month. Immediate. What can 12 grand do, right? Sometimes people throw these numbers around like, oh, wow, that's great. Like 12 grand, you could hire 3 people, right? You could pay off corporate debt. You could do all kinds of stuff with the money, but instead of sending it to the insurance companies, it's in your pocket and the employee's pocket. The savings over 6 years was projected to be 1.6 million, just like your savings in your 401k, just like your investments can compound if it's going up. The savings compounds. And then the amount of money we removed from the core medical plan, removed from trend, we call it, is over $2 million projected over 6 years. Remember we talked about that 12% bucket, 12% a year? If you reduce the size of that bucket, you're saving money because it's compounding. And we eliminated the deductible. They had a 0 deductible. Went straight to coinsurance. So this is what it looks like graphically. 2020 right there in the middle. The red is where they were in the past, total spend, and where they were heading. Now that is an annualized 12% return right there, that red line. The orange is where we dropped them in 2020 and what's happening with the trend going forward. Why? You see how it's separating because the savings are compounding. We're also flattening out the curve initially because we've shifted the claims off the core carrier. They're like, whoa, the claims went down. This is very typical of what we see like the first and second year after we implement it. The renewal rates are drastically lower because they didn't see the claims coming in. Now, this is a group that has like I said, 44 employees. So their rates are dependent on usage, right? They're actually categorized in the middle market sector. So this was a big plus for them. Hope that makes sense, right? And this is very consistent with what we see when we run a 5-year analysis. So this is me. This is last slide. I'm very passionate about this stuff. And I hope you got some value out of it. We'd like the chance to run an analysis. That's all I do, right? It's an assessment. What I do is I take your renewal packet, I take a blind census, I look at your current rates, and I run it through a model, and it spits out a 1-page 5-year analysis. And what it does is it gives me this kind of analysis plus a bunch of other data that shows you what we think we can do. And sometimes this looks phenomenal. Sometimes it's like, hey, you're in good shape. There's no cost. There's no commitment. There's no BOR letter. But I will tell you, most of the time when we do this, people are amazed. Like, why? 2 questions, and I'm wrapping up. I'll ask the question, have you ever seen this before? And what do you think the answer is? No. And I ask, why do you think you've never seen this? Why has your broker not brought this to you? And there's silence. I don't know. And so I said, in my opinion, there's 2 reasons. This is just the truth. One is they don't even know it exists, which means they're a little bit incompetent because they're kind of lazy and they're letting things roll. And two, they didn't want to work hard enough to continue to dig and find these ways, because this takes a lot of work and effort, because the medical plan redesign stage, we look at unpublished and unpublished and unreported rates. Each medical plan has 100 to 150 plan designs behind the scenes that you're never going to see in a renewal packet. We go through all those and we whittle them down to meet our criteria. So it takes a lot of time to do this, but it's the right thing to do. I hope we can help you. I hope this is beneficial. Email me, call me, connect with me on LinkedIn, check out our YouTube channel, Benefit Hackers, check out our podcast, Benefit Hackers. We want to help companies that small, mid-size range, and there's no commitment when we do this no cost assessment. Literally, seriously, there's no money, there's no commitment, there's no BOR letter. We want to show you that we can help save money and improve coverage for your employees. I hope this is beneficial. Hope you have a great day. We'll talk soon.